What's up, bro? In this video I'll show you how to make really hard hitting drums. I cover how to make the instruments and samples in depth in my previous videos, so go watch them if you haven't seen them. So this is what we're working with. Alright, so let's break it down. This is the first 808 pattern. So yeah, as you can hear, the sample itself doesn't really have a lot of like mids or highs. It's really subby, and the pattern is just following the root notes of the chords. And I made every note a little bit shorter. It's not dragging out all the way, and that gives the next note a bit of extra punch though. They're a bit more separated than if they were just all glued together, and it also makes it sound a bit more realistic. Like if a human would have played it on a drum machine, you're not gonna hold out every single note, except like if there's a auto hold thing. I don't know, but yeah, mixing wise, what do we have? I boosted the low ends, and then I added a limiter. This is to sidechain it to the kick later, as you're gonna see. But yeah, boost the low ends without clipping it, because if you clip it, it's just gonna sound, or it can sound cool, but I didn't want to do that for this 808 right here. I wanted it to be hard but not too hard, because I wanted the next 808 to be even harder. So the drums that go together with that sound like this. So this kick pattern right here is what I think is the most interesting. It gives the whole pattern a sort of stutter feel in this region right here. And so it's the same motif, we can say, as the first time around, but we just loop it 3 times. So I think that's pretty cool. And I did the same in the hi-hats, and the snare as well, or I cut it out because technically there's no snare playing it right here, so there shouldn't be any snare playing it right here either if we're just looping those first 2 beats. And in the secondary snare as well, we're just looping this part right here over to keep the motif of, you know, this stutter feel in the entire pattern. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the first drum pattern. Then we have the second pattern coming in with this same stutter feel motif. So the 808s play this pretty simple pattern. Again, you can see the notes are cut short. And these notes right here, they're technically part of the same chord. That's the E minor. It's the tonic. So we're just gonna stay on that and go to the B, which is the 5th of E. So it's the chord tone. So even though the sample just stays on the tonic, it's okay to go to another chord tone for the bass note, to switch up, to just not have the same 808 note all over the pattern. And the drums play this pattern here. I think the easiest way to just look at them is comparing with the first pattern. So I switched out the kick, as you can see right here, right? And the 808 as well. It's a new 808 sample with a bit more high end and a bit more mids. So new 808 sample, new kick sample, new hi-hat as well, layering, new pattern, playing this, no rolls, no nothing, just looping that over and over again. Same open hats, just a bit shorter. Other pattern was this, that was this, and a bit higher as well. And same snare but layered with a new one. First one was this snare layering, now it's this new, a bit more beefy snare. Also playing a snare roll right here and right here. But yeah, actually nothing too complicated, just pretty basic drums, and the snare roll to just spice it up from time to time. What I did after that was I wanted to fill out the space in between the drums, because they're all pretty like snappy trap drums, you know. So I added this perk loop. And the original sample sounds like this. And so what I did was, I didn't actually chop it up. All the chopping made is with, I think, gross beat. So first thing I added was this reverb, then a limiter to really just squash the sound, another limiter to remove the absolute peaks, to give it a more even dynamic, wave shaper for distortion, gross beat, more reverb, and this was to, because with just the gross beat, it's like it was a bit too snappy for my taste, so the reverb kind of just like smoothed that out. And then another gross beat, the half timed pattern, and a EQ to just clean it up. And then when I bounced it, I added another EQ to get rid of this peak right here, take down these frequencies, boost these and whatnots. So layered with the first drums, with the second drums, instead of just like the flat, no texture. Like, it's cool, but it doesn't have the same bounce to it. Then I added in the second hook we have this 808 pattern right here. So this is the second 808 sample, so the one used with the second drum pattern. We're just playing the chord tones, and I added these slide notes with 0 velocity, so that it would be, and I also lowered the velocity of all the notes, so that it has sort of a shorter decay, if you would call it that, instead of it just like, if I remove this, you can hear it doesn't go to 0, but it makes it sound like a shorter 808. I did that because I didn't have the energy to drag in a whole new sample. And you can also like play around with every single note. Like if I wanted this note to go to 0 over here, I could just move it, and now, you know, so that's pretty efficient. And then I did this little thing to go into the sub bass, and so this is another slide note on top of the original note. So that's gonna make this one is to just slide the note up, and this is to slide the velocity up of the original note. And I wanted that to just be like a sort of swell into the sub bass. And then we also have this drum pattern. And how I did that is I just took I think it's these drums, and I put a gross beat on the bass drum. So as you can see, these audio clips are cut in different places, and I like to work with audio clips instead of a MIDI, because let's say you have a long reverb tail. In an audio clip you can just cut that short, like here for example. With MIDI that would ring out, or maybe it wouldn't, depending on the instrument you're using, but if you have a reverb on your mixer channel, it's going to ring out, and so you're not going to get this clean, you know, that would ring out over the drums, and it wouldn't get the same impact on the downbeat. And also, don't be scared to use rests. You don't have to use or like have an instrument all the time. You see here, no 808s, no instruments. Cut out the instruments before the downbeat, cut out the instruments before the downbeat, you know, do it all over the place. And maybe when you listen back to your track, you're going to think it sounds empty, but you can add an a cappella vocal to see where the slots for pauses would fit. There, for example, right before the downbeat gives it a stop and go feeling. And it also, you can use it like cutting the audio clips, you can use it to tease the next instrument, right? So this is one sample flip I did, and I wanted to tease this part of the sample, right? So what I did is I just took the last part of the sample, this bit right here, right at the end, sandwiched it in between this sample and the downbeat. And it just gives it a bit more impact. Like it's a short break right before the downbeat. For mixing on the final beat, I sidechain my kick to the 808. That's pretty standard, just gives you a bit cleaner low end. Let me see if I can show you that. So this is sidechained, right? If I turn off the limiter, I don't know if it's audible, but it's just those peaks in the low end are clashing, and on club speakers it's just gonna sound doo-doo. So I did that, and for the second 808 as well. I also boosted the master EQ. So this one right here, this is my master bus, and I boosted the high end as well. So this is boosting an overall EQ curve, this is boosting the high end. And I thought I did it because I just thought the drums weren't hitting hard enough, like the hi-hats, the snares, so it just makes it sound a little bit more crisp. And then I ran it through a soft clipper, because without it, you could see right here, it's clipping as hell. So I added this and then ran it to the actual master. I also added some extra stereo image to certain sounds to not make it sound way too tight and in the middle. But otherwise, yeah, that's it. Let me show you what the final beat sounds like.